Hey, what's up? It's Breyonna. So today we are going to be sitting down and continuing my Colourpop Coming In Haute Collection series, and the palette that we are going to be using today though is the pink one called Too Haute. And this one has like that bougie hot spelling, you know, the H-A-U-T-E, you know, like the fancy type. It's not like just the normal hot. And I don't know, I think that's a really cool thing about this collection is that it kind of has like this bougie French-inspired kind of feel to it. And I just think it makes it look a little bit more unique. Because each of the palettes has a fleur-de-lis pressed into one of the mattes, and also like the outer packaging, like the case of this, it kind of has like this swirly kind of like gold vibe to it. I don't know, it looks really just like fancy. And also, I will be doing a separate video on each of these palettes, so if you'd like to check out any of the other looks I have done using this collection, I'll have them all linked in the description box down below for you. So I just pried my eyes off camera, but today I am going to be treating this palette like a pressed pigment palette, so I'm going to go from the darkest shade to the lightest one and pack and blend out the edges of my colors. And the reason I'm doing this though is because when I use the High Society palette as well as the Rumor Has It one, those two palettes both kind of acted more like pressed pigments, and since this one is a little bit on the brighter side, I assume this one is going to too. The Cashmere Forever palette I could do my normal method with and it was fine. I don't know, I had like a gut feeling that I should do, you know, the dark to light method with this one, so that's what I'm gonna do. And the first shade though I'm going to be going in with is this kind of like reddish pink, and this one's called West End. And I'm just going to be taking this shade on this Anastasia pencil brush, and man, that is pigmented right away. And this brush though is an A14. And again, I'm just gonna pop it in my crease and kind of like wing it out. So I'm following underneath this little dip of my brow bone. I'm going right underneath of it. You know, I'm gonna do a second layer though, just to really like amp it up. First layer I kind of just got the color down. You see what I mean though? Like this shade is just so pigmented. And I am going to be winging it out fairly far too. Because we're going to do something a little bit on the funky side today. I want to try a different eye shape. And then after I have the color placed down, I'm just doing these like little circular motions to buff up the color, just so it's not so chunky looking. So this is one of those shades, it looks like a matte red in the pan, but when applied, it applies like a red that has some pink in it. Kind of reminds me of that reddish pink shade in the Fade Into Hue palette. So now that I have that color placed down, now I'm just going to go in with this hot pink, and this one's called Flirt. And this is like a really like hot pink. It almost has like a neon kind of look to it too. And I'm just going to be taking it on another pencil brush, and again, this one's from Anastasia. And I'm just going to be packing this shade right above West End. Again, I am pressing it in right on that line. And she's really pigmented too. I mean, look at that. Like these are the type of shadows, you really don't even have to build them up much. And I'm just gonna build it up all the way. Again, overlapping the two colors. And you see what I mean though, like the shade is just so pigmented. And then I'm just going to start buffing out this edge a little bit. Again, this isn't my preferred method, but with pressed pigments, you know, they're the type of shadow where they don't always adhere the best to the eye, and they can get a little bit over blended, and they can just be a little bit more finicky to work with. Honestly, I don't think these shades so far have acted like pressed pigments, but I didn't want to take the risk. And now I'm just going to go in the lightest matte in this palette, and this one's called 2 AM, and it's kind of like an electric neon type of pink. And I'm just going to be taking it on this little pencil brush, I guess, from Colourpop. And this is an E27. This one's just a little bit more on the fluffy side. And I'm just going to be popping that right above the shade we just applied. Again, I'm trying to be a little bit careful because these shades are just so intense. I could see them getting like everywhere if I'm not careful. So I'm like pushing it down and then blending it up towards my brow. But if you like really pigmented shades, I think you're going to be really happy with the mattes in here. Because they're just so intense and like pow in your face, and they also blend out really nice. So now I'm just going to go in and reapply the reddish pink using that brush that we initially applied it with, because I feel like I just lost the intensity of it. So I'm just going to kind of like press it in that crease and then buff it up. And then next, with no additional product, I'm going to go in with that mid pink, kind of like finesse the edge. And you can see I'm really like winging out this look today because we are going to be doing something a little bit more. And I just want to make sure that I am giving it enough room on this outer edge. So now I'm just going to take a little bit of West End and pack it on in the outer third of my lid. And I know this is going to look a little bit weird too, but I want to do a certain kind of shape and it's one of those like trust the process types. So I'm just kind of like pressing it in, and I'm not doing anything to my lid right now. And then I'm also going to take a little bit of the Flirt shade that we used and kind of like buff out the edge. And I'm almost applying this shade like as if I'm doing a wing liner. So I'm taking my brush and placing it down where my eye points on this outer edge and then flicking up into everything else. And then I'm also kind of like packing it on the edge here, just to blend that red in this outer third. And then lastly, I'm just going to take a little bit of the 2 AM shade, press it down, and buff out the edge. And if it looks a little bit messy right now, don't worry about it, because once I apply like foundation and whatnot, I'm going to have to redo this edge a little bit. So I just want to get the colors placed down to give me a little bit of a guide for later on. So now I'm going to cut the crease, and this is where things are going to kind of come together a little bit more. And I'm just going to go in with that Anastasia eye primer. This is the eye primer that I used today. And I just put a tiny amount on the back of my hand, like probably about half of a pea, if that. And then the liner brush I'm going to be using today is a Sigma E11. And then I'm just going to look forward into a mirror and go a little bit above my natural crease. And following that shape that my natural crease makes. Now the difference with this eye shape and what's going to make it a little bit different is I'm going to cut the crease about where that red ends. So last minute I did decide to wing out this outer edge, and I'm just taking this line and following it right underneath my natural brow bone on this outer edge. Just doing a little baby wing. Again, I'm not doing like the full cut crease. Just want like this little wing accent. And now I'm just going to take a little bit of that eye base on this little shader brush from Luxie. This is a 245. It's just like a little small one. And in the first half of my eye, I'm going to pack it all over my lid. So from that line downwards. And when I do this, I do a pressing motion, because it does give a little bit more coverage and makes it look a little bit more even. So now this is where it's going to look a little bit on the different side, and I'm just going to take a little bit more of that eye primer. I'm going to first apply it towards the center of my eye, you know, just to get rid of the excess. And then I'm going to start bringing it towards that wing that we made. Trying to do like a little bit of like a wing liner situation with the red. And I'm just kind of like taking whatever's left on my brush and then feathering it into that red that we packed on the lid earlier. And then using the tip of this little shader brush, I'm going to bring it in from the wing. And flicking it in towards the lid to blend it in. So you're kind of looking for a shape like this. So now I'm just going to take that brush that we applied West End with, and I'm just going to kind of like clean up this edge. I'm not taking any additional product on my brush either. I'm just trying to like smoke out this line and create a little bit of a wing liner with it. I'm going about maybe like halfway in. Okay, I'm really excited to see how these shimmers apply, especially this pink one right here. I want to go in with this one first, and this one's called the Ivy. And it almost looks like a pink with like rose gold in it. Just looks like a really cool shade, and I'm just going to be taking it on this little shader brush dampened. So I'm going to apply this shimmer to the center of my lid first. Ooh, that's really cute. I will say it's not like super shimmery right away. So I'm going to do a second layer. Oh yeah. It almost has like this baby pink kind of vibe to it. don't know if you can see it or not. I thought it was going to apply more like a rose gold, but it almost applies more like a shimmery baby pink. And it's a little bit on the icy side too. And then what I'm going to do is apply this shimmer to the upper half of this cut crease. And I'm trying to skip this dark red right here. And then for the rest of the lid, I'm just going to go in with the other shimmer, and this one's called LOL No. And I'm just going to be taking it again on a dampened flat shader brush. I was not expecting it to be named that, but this one looks like a definite rose gold in the pan. Ooh, that is really cute. It's kind of like an icier rose gold. Like, it's not like super gold. Which I really love because, I don't know, like when I first saw this color story, I was like, man, like those golds look a little bit dark. And what am I gonna do, you know, to contrast the darker mattes from the, you know, mid-tone type of shimmers? But I'm happy that when applied, you know, they look a little bit more on the brighter side. They just look a little bit lighter, which I think is gonna make them a little bit more versatile. And then I'm just taking whatever's left on this brush and then feathering it into that pink shimmer that we just applied. I mean, I think she's really cute. I feel like I just need another layer of this shimmer, but again, these shimmer shades are like the wet metallic type, they're not the glittery type. So I just did the rest of my makeup off camera, but let's start working on the lower lash line, and I'm first gonna go in with that West End shade, and I'm going to be taking it on this tiny little shader brush from Colourpop. This is an E29. And I'm going to place it as close as I can to where the lashes grow out. Do these little back and forth motions. And I'm just going to do a second layer too, just to really amp it up. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of Flirt on that pencil brush that we applied it with in the crease. Again, I'm just doing back and forth motions when I'm applying it. And then lastly, I'm just going to go in with a little bit of 2 AM on that brush that we applied it with earlier. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you are connecting it to this kind of like wing situation that we have going on, just so it ties it in together. And then for the inner corner highlight, I'm just going to go back in with that LOL No shade that we used earlier, and I'm just going to be taking it on this dampened little pencil brush from Colourpop, and this is an E28. And I'm just going to be packing it super heavy in my inner corner just to really like amp it up. Ooh, that is really cute. And I am going to do a second layer because again, I want it extra blinding because I think it's going to be the most flattering with this shape that we have going on. I'm also going to take it a little bit underneath the inner tear duct as well. But she's bopping. Okay, but this look is giving me kind of like Barbie vibes in a way. I don't know if you feel that way too, but let's talk about the palette and let's go over the mattes first. And I gotta say, like, the mattes in here are so intensely pigmented. Like, they literally blew my mind away with the pigmentation. Like, you don't even have to build them up if you don't want to. So if you like really intense shades, you're gonna fall in love with these. And also, if you're a beginner or if you struggle blending out your colors, these ones in here did not give me any issues with blending. Like, they literally blended themselves out. I know I used this palette assuming that it acted like a pressed pigment palette, but honestly, I feel like you could do like my normal method from light to dark with this one and it wouldn't give you any issues. As for the shimmers in here, they have like this really nice creamy texture to them that's really pigmented and also has like this wet metallic finish to them. And this first one though that we used called the Ivy, this shade to me is a little bit more of like a wearable shimmer. Again, it doesn't apply like a satin, but it's not like super punchy either. Just a really pretty wet sheen on the eye. And this shade called LOL No, now this one is way more extra than the Ivy. Again, it isn't like super crazy extra either. It just has a little bit more of like a wow factor to it. So when it comes down to it, would I recommend this palette to you? And honestly, I really love this palette and I think it just has an amazing formula to it, especially with the mattes. I mean, seriously, they are just so pigmented and just really intense and very easy to work with. By far the star of the show out of this whole palette. But yeah, so in the comments down below, let me know what you think about this look and also let me know what your favorite palette is so far. But as always though, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and also give this video a like. And if you'd like to check me out over on Instagram or TikTok, it is at Breyonna as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.